Hi, welcome to my channel once again. This is gonna be the second series of my tutorial. Like I mentioned in the first series, we're gonna be building a high-level web application that has the feature of Airbnb, Booking.com, and Uber. So I've already given a brief introduction of what programming it is and everything that we're gonna do in this project. So this second series, we're gonna go into some practicals. Then, if my video is too slow, you can simply fast forward it. And then I'm not gonna go very high level this beginning stage because I've got a lot of people that wants to learn programming who do not have computer experience or programming experience. So I'm not gonna really use hardcore programming terminologies so that I can take everyone along. I'm just gonna be as I'm gonna make this tutorial as easy and low level as possible. But this application that we're gonna build, it's gonna carry you from beginner stage to an advanced stage. So whether you're a complete novice or you're an intermediate developer, this course is for you. Now, I choose to teach programming by building application because the best way to learn programming language is by building an actual application. Now, if you want to learn a spoken language, for example, you want to learn French or Spanish, the best way to learn it is not actually in school. Yeah, school can teach you those languages. But then, if you live in those countries, for example, you move to France, you will learn French better because you'll be forced to understand and speak it because everyone is speaking French, right? So if you find yourself in a French-speaking country, believe me, before 3, 4 months, you're definitely gonna pick up the language. So this is the same approach I'm adopting for my tutorial. We're gonna be building an advanced application that you can use in your portfolio, or you can use and apply for freelance jobs and all the rest. Now, building an application is often considered the best way to learn programming because it's gonna provide you a hands-on and practical approach that will offer you numerous benefits. Number one, it will offer you a real-world problem-solving experience. So when you develop an application, it forces you to solve real-world problem, which can enhance your problem-solving skills. So like I said, in this application, we are building an application that has the functionality of Airbnb, Uber, and Booking.com. So you're gonna know the logic behind how these applications work, and then you're gonna build it as well. So one of the best way to learn programming is by having your pen and paper, or you can open your notepad and take notes. Initially, the things are not gonna make so much sense to you, and you're not gonna be able to understand everything. But as you keep on practicing, as you keep on watching the video, everything is gonna sink in, and then you're gonna understand it better. Now, building a real-world application while learning programming, it's also gonna help you integrate multiple concepts. Now, it also because it's gonna help you integrate multiple concepts because, for example, this application now, we're gonna use a whole lot of tools, technologies, and libraries. We are using Django, we're gonna use vanilla JavaScript, we're gonna use jQuery, we're gonna use Bootstrap, we're gonna use CSS, we're gonna use HTML, we're gonna use Ajax programming, so we incorporate a lot of tools, a lot of technologies, a lot of libraries and programming language to build our application. Now, building of application while also learning can help you develop your portfolio. As you know, in the IT sector, if you don't have portfolio, nobody's gonna employ you. For example, you can't just submit an empty CV. You want to work as a backend developer or a front-end developer, and you just put in your CV that you're a front-end developer, you've learned Vue.js, or you've learned React, or you know HTML and CSS. Where is your portfolio? What have you built with it? That is what is gonna give you job, and that is what is gonna give you your the freelance job as well. So building real life application will also expose you to different tools and frameworks. Like I said, we're gonna use up to 7 frameworks to build this application, and we're gonna use different tools as well. Now, for this application that we're gonna build, we're gonna install Python, we're gonna install Git Bash, and we're gonna install Django, and we're gonna also install VS Code. So let me show you. This is what we install. We install Python, we will install Git Bash, and we're gonna install Visual Studio Code. I'm just gonna explain what these things are before we go ahead with the installation. Now, Python, when you install Python, you install the interpreter. It's gonna install the standard library of Python. It's gonna install an IDE for you. It's gonna install a package called pip. It will install the Python documentation and every other tool that you need. So now to install Python, what you simply need to do is to go to python.org/downloads. If you can't remember this link, just simply go to your web browser and type Python install or Python download. It's gonna take you to the official Python page. You click on it, and then this is the latest version of Python. Simply click on download Python. So I'm gonna click on it. Then you just yeah, I'm just gonna click on save. It's gonna go to my download, and then look, download is complete now. So simply open it, double click on it to install it. So yeah, you click on install now, and then you just wait for Python to finish installing. So I'm gonna pause the video and I'll come back when it has finished the installation. So now you see it says setup was successful. Python has installed on my system. Now, before you install Python, you can actually check if Python is already installed on your system. If it is already installed on your system, then there is no need for you to install Python again. You can just skip the Python installation. But if it is not installed on your system, you have to install Python for you to be able to build this application. Now, this has been successfully installed, but I'm going to show you how to check if Python is actually installed on your system. So what you need to do is you simply go to your command prompt, go to your start menu, type cmd, it open command prompt, and then you type Python space dash dash version and press enter. So you see it says Python 3.10.11. So Python is successfully installed on my system. Follow this procedure to install Python. Now, the next tool we're gonna install is called Git Bash. So what is Git Bash? Git Bash is a command line interface or CLI for Windows that enables you interact with your operating system for scripting. Like I said previously, some of the terms I'm saying and some of the things I'm saying, you may not understand it as in as a new beginner or as a novice, but as we keep on using these tools and building our application, things will start to make more sense. Now, Git Bash include Git, which is used for version control. It can allow users track changes in their source code. It can enable developers collaborate among themselves, and it can also help you manage your project history. Now, how do you install Git Bash? Simply, you can just go to your web browser and type Git Bash. Git Bash. Just type Git Bash install, and then you follow this URL is git-scm.com/downloads. So I'm just gonna copy the URL for you and paste on my screen. So you're gonna see it. This is it. This is the link to install Git Bash. While this is the link to install Python. git-scm.com/downloads, or you simply type git bash install. That's the second tool we're gonna use. So when the page opens, you simply click on the version for the version for your operating system. So we have for Windows, we have for Mac, we have for Linux and Unix. So just click on download for Windows. I click on download for Windows because I'm using a window machine. Then you click here to download. Click here to download, and then you click on save. It's going to my download folder. You click on save. So it has finished downloading, and then you just double click on it to open it and install it. You click on yes, and then click on next. Just click on next again. Click on next. Click on next. Click on next. 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 Again. Next. And you click on install. So I'm just gonna stop this video and then come back when it finished installing. So at the last stage, it's gonna give you a prompt, and then you click on finish. Now, Git Bash has been installed on my PC. How do I confirm if Git Bash was actually installed? You can simply go to any folder, and then you right click. When you right click, you see open Git Bash here. If Git Bash wasn't installed, this option will not be here. Now, the next application we're gonna download is called Visual Studio Code. Visual Studio Code is an editor used in developing web application, websites, mobile applications, desktop application, and it's one of the most popular and one of the most commonly used editor by developers. Aside from Visual Studio Code, there are also other editors such as Sublime, Notepad++, NetBeans, Eclipse. We have PyCharm as well, and other editors. But Visual Studio Code is my favorite. But actually, if you can use Visual Studio Code, you can use any other IDE. So Visual Studio Code is very powerful. You can use it to write codes. It has intelligence feature. It has code completion features. You can use it for debugging. You can use it for testing. You can use it for version control. So this is it. Visual Studio Code, that's the name. It's developed by Microsoft. And then this is the link to download Visual Studio Code. To download VS Code. So short form is VS Code, and then the long form is Visual Studio Code, or some people also call it Microsoft. Make no mistake, there is Visual Studio Code and there is also Visual Studio. So don't make mistake and download Visual Studio instead of Visual Studio Code. The both of them are developed by they are owned by Microsoft, but Visual Studio is an IDE, integrated development environment, while this is a text editor. So I don't want to go into too much details, not to confuse the beginners, but just stick with this Visual Studio Code. So you simply go to this URL, code.visualstudio.com/download. Or simply, if you can't remember this URL, open your web browser and type Visual Studio Code download. It's as simple as that. So it's gonna take you to this page and then you click on it. You click on it and the network is a little bit slow today. So I'm just gonna go to this page that has already opened. It's the same thing as this page that is loading. And then you click on the version for your system. So I'm using Windows, so I'm just gonna click on Windows. And then yeah, and then it's gonna go to your downloading in my download folder. I'm just gonna click on save. So it's gonna take a while to download. This is the progress. When the download is complete, simply double click on it, or you open your download folder and then you double click to install it. Click on accept agreements. You click on next, click on next, click on next. So if you want to create a desktop icon, if you want to create the icon on your desktop, you can click on this, create a desktop icon, and then you click on next and install. So you allow for some time for Visual Studio Code to install on your PC. I'm just gonna pause the video and come back when it finishes installing. So yeah, my installation is complete and simply click on finish. So let me go to my desktop now. This is it. This is it, Visual Studio Code. It has installed on my PC. Now that we've installed everything that we need for a start, we're gonna start the application proper now. So first and foremost, you determine the location where you want to keep your folder. You can decide to keep your project folder on your desktop, You can put it inside your documents or you can put it in any other directory that you want. But I'm just gonna create it on my desktop. So number one, create a folder on your desktop. So I'm gonna right click. I'm gonna create a folder. I'm gonna call it the name of my project. So I want to build an application that has the feature of booking.com, Airbnb, and Uber. So let me think of something nice. I say, um, I'm just gonna call it um, ride, ride and book. So ride and book because Uber is a ride sharing app. Airbnb, you can use it to book for accommodation and all that. So I'm just gonna call my project name, my project folder, ride and book. So my folder has been created. So step one, I'm gonna put it inside this document for you. Step one, create a folder on your PC and name it. Step two, open the folder and then right click inside the folder, click on open Git Bash here. Remember we installed Git Bash. So now you have to open Git Bash here, click on it, and then you type this code, Python-m venv dash env. So I'm just gonna explain this to you. I said Python-m venv space env. So I want to create a virtual environment inside my project folder. And the name of the virtual environment is called env. Actually, you can call this anything, but developers we love calling our virtual environment env. So I'm going to explain what virtual environments will do for you. So once you type python-m venv env, Python space dash m space venv space env. You press enter and then you hold on. Now see, it has automatically created a folder called env. This is my virtual environment. So I'm gonna explain what virtual environment is and why you need it. Now, remember I told you we're building a robust application, and in this application we're gonna use a whole lot of libraries, programming languages, tools. Before we finish building this application, we'll use more than 30 libraries and tools. Now imagine if you have to install all these libraries and tools inside your PC. It is gonna take up a whole lot of space. You will not be able to know where these libraries are. That is why you need to create a virtual environment to install all the libraries that you need. So all the libraries we need to install, we need to use to build this application will be inside this virtual environment called env. So the virtual environment will help you manage your dependencies. It will create an isolated environment for you where all your dependencies packages will be installed. Now, if I am building a mobile application. The packages I need to build a web application are different. So if I'm building a mobile application, I'm going to create a virtual environment to install all the packages and dependencies I need inside the virtual environment so that it doesn't clash with the packages and dependencies of my other applications. And even if I'm building maybe a mobile application for a bank, the packages I would need will be different from when I am building a mobile application for an e-commerce organization. Do you understand what I'm saying? This is why you need virtual environment so that you don't install unnecessary stuffs inside your system so that you can be able to manage your packages very well and so that uh, you can when you host your application on the cloud, you can just move all the packages you used in building your application on your local system to your cloud server, and they're still gonna have the same behavior. Now, for example, I installed Python 10. But there are instances when you would need to use a lower version of Python or a higher version of Python. Some organizations, they still run their application on Python 6.0. So if you are building an application now and then you've installed Python 10, but you wanted to build, you wanted to use, the requirement is to use Python 6. How do you manage such scenario without using a virtual environment? So if you have your virtual environment, you can simply install the version of Python you want inside that virtual environment, while other of your application can be using maybe Python 10. Do you understand what I'm saying? This is one of the reasons why you virtual environment. So we've created our virtual environment, and I've also shown you how to create virtual environment. Once again, I said you have to create a folder on your PC. After you create a folder on your PC, you name your folder, name it your project name, and then number two, you go inside, you open your folder, open your folder. When you open your folder, right click, and then click on open Git Bash here. So go to the folder, right click, you click on open Git Bash here. The terminal is gonna open, and then you type Python dash m space venv space env to create your virtual environment. So open your folder, right click and click on open Git Bash here. Then type Python dash m venv space env. It's gonna create your virtual environment for you. So remember the terminal, I've not closed my Git Bash terminal, is still open. But if it's closed, you can still open it by right clicking and click on open Git Bash here. Now, the next thing you have to do is to activate your virtual environment by typing this code source let me just type it source env slash scripts slash activate. So you activate your virtual environment by typing this code. Remember, this is procedural, it is step by step. Create your folder, you name it, create your virtual environment, and then you activate your virtual environment. Once you type this source space env forward slash scripts, the S is capital, forward slash activate, you press enter. Once you press enter, env will now be at the top. You see, at this stage there is no env, but here now env is at the top. The next thing you have to do is to install Django. Make sure your system is connected to the internet, otherwise Django is not gonna install. So you type pip install Django, pip install Django, and then you press enter. So this is gonna install the latest version of Django inside your virtual environment. Now look, when I created my virtual environment, I activated the virtual environment. env is now on top, and then I'm now typing pip install Django. So it's gonna install Django inside my virtual environment. So Django is not gonna install on my system, but is installing inside this virtual environment. So if I delete this virtual environment, Django goes off. So I'm just gonna pause this video and come back when the installation is complete. Now, Django has finished installing on my virtual environment. Now, the next thing you have to do is to start projects. When we created this folder, we've not started our Django project. We only created a folder and created our virtual environment and installed Django. Now you have to start your project. Start your project by typing Django. Just go to this terminal, type Django dash admin space start project space your project name. So I can still call it the name of my folder or something else. So I'm just gonna call it Evans book and wide. You can call your project name whatever you want, just the way Uber called their application Uber, Airbnb called theirs Airbnb, Booking called theirs Booking or whatever. You can call it anything. So the code is Django dash admin start projects Evans book and ride space and dot. So if you don't give space and dot, it's gonna create multiple folders inside your project. So once again, the code to start project in Django is Django-admin, start projects, then the name of your project, Evans book and ride space and dot, and then you press enter. Once you do that, it's gonna create some folders for you and some files. So just give it a minute. You see, it has created a folder called Evans Book and Guide. It has created a Python file called manage. So I have my virtual environment. I have started my projects, and it has also created a file called manage. Now, at this point, everything is fine. But maybe you want to check the version of the Django that was installed. You can simply type a command called pip freeze. So you type pip, go to your terminal, and then you type pip freeze just to see the version of Django that is installed in your project, or all the dependencies that are installed on your project. So when I type pfreeze, it has listed all the packages that have been installed so far. Some I didn't install them by myself. It came with Django. So look, here it's showing Django 5.0.6, and then Django will automatically install SQL parse for your database. It will install typing extension. It will install TZ data, and every other packages that it wants. So at this point, we want to verify if our project was successfully started and created. So you type Python manage.py space run server. So we've we created a folder, we named our folder, we created our virtual environment, we activated the virtual environment, we now installed Django. After installing Django, we now started our project with Django-admin start project and the project name space dot. And then we checked the version of Django that is installed in our project. And then we typed Python manage.py run server. Now, and then you press enter. When you press enter, it's gonna run the Django server. See what it's saying? It's saying watching for file changes, state reloader. Sometimes it can show you an IP address and sometimes it wouldn't. Mine is not showing me any IP address below, but to verify if Django was successfully installed, simply go to your web browser and type this IP address 127.0.0.1 colon 8000 and press enter. And then you just wait for the page to load. So this is it. The install worked successfully. Congratulations. So we have successfully started our new Django web application. So this page is displaying the install worked successfully is displaying because of this code that I typed python manage.py run server. It will run your server for you. So once again, these are all the things that we've done. We installed Python, and then this is the link to install Python. We installed Git Bash. This is the link to install Git Bash. We installed Visual Studio Code. This is the link to install Visual Studio Code. Then after that, we created a folder on our desktop and then named the folder. We opened the folder, right click inside the folder, then we clicked on open Git Bash here. When it opened the terminal, we type python space -m space venv space env to create our virtual environment. Now, after that, so this is the same code that we have. After that, we activated our virtual environment with this code. And then we now install Django, and then we started our project Django project by typing Django-admin space start project and then the name of the project, which can be anything. And then we type python manage.py run server, and then we went to this IP address to see if it works. Now they said practice makes perfect. Initially, you're not gonna understand some of the things that we've done, or you're not gonna master it, but just create another folder and start another project. Start maybe like 3, 4, 5 projects. When you start 5 projects like this, then you're gonna master it. So I just want to keep these lectures brief and short, especially for our new beginners, for people that want to change career, that don't have any idea about programming and all that. So I'll be keeping my tutorial short, and then I'm gonna see you again in another 3 days or 4 days from now. and then we'll keep on building on what we've done. Thank you very much. And if you have any question, don't forget to ask in the comment section. You can also send me a private message or send me an email. My email is evansboma@gmail.com, and then I'm gonna try my possible best to answer you. Don't be worried if you make mistakes. Mistakes, they are part of programming, but as you keep on practicing and keep on building projects, you're gonna master it and everything will start flowing naturally. Thank you and see you again in the coming days. Bye bye.